Hello, friends, and Merry Christmas. I'm going to say that because this podcast is coming out on December 23rd. So it's before Christmas, even though you might be listening to it after Christmas. Still, it's before Christmas for me. So, something new happened last week. I like new things happening. This podcast, Sweet Grace for Your Journey, is been added to the Charisma Podcast Network. Now, I've written for Charisma since 2013, but now you will probably see a few more of my stories there, as well as the podcast. So I'll have a link in that Charisma Podcast Network down in the show notes at the end of this podcast. Like I said, Merry Christmas. And, preparation from the holidays should look different for those of us who give into food temptations easily. So we'll be talking about that on today's podcast because preparation for temptation is really important. It will come, and we need to prepare our minds and our hearts even more than the other kinds of plans we make. So first, though, I'm going to talk a little bit about Merry Christmas because that's kind of integral to what I'm talking about today. I want to give you the definition of merry, because I like words. So, there is seriously a motive for it behind this because it does tie into the theme that we've been on. I think this is the 6th week that we've been talking about temptations. Did you ever stop and think about that word, merry? What does it mean? Is it just happiness? Why don't we say, and a happy Christmas to you too? Why do we use the word merry? Well, to be merry really means full of cheerfulness or gaiety, joyous in disposition or spirit, laughingly happy, mirthful, festively joyous, hilarious, causing happiness, pleasant, delightful. So many other words come into the word merry. It's not just happy, it's like happy on steroids. It's that letting go kind of happiness that comes when you are good friends, you're with good friends or family, and you're allowing yourself to be filled up to the brim, enjoying their presence. It's that laughing until you cry and your sides aching kind of feeling. It's being with people who get you, who love you, and with whom you can't even fathom being without. Even when they're gone, like my mom and dad are both gone, even when they're gone, it's smiling and that feeling of joy just remembering being with them. So we all know what Christmas is, right? We don't have to define it, but because I'm a word person and words matter, let's see what the definition really is. What the internet search tells me is that Christmas is the celebration to remember the birth of Jesus Christ, whom Christians believe is the Son of God. Now, the name Christmas comes from the Mass of Christ, or for Jesus, a service which sometimes is called the communion or the Eucharist, and that's where Christians remember that Jesus died for us and then he came back to life. Now, that's what the internet says. So let's put those two words together. What does it really mean to have a Merry Christmas? For me, I think it means that I have a reason for being over the top joyous. And that reason is because God came to earth as a human, a little baby named Jesus, and in doing so, he gave up his divinity to become the one and only Son of God. He grew up as a human, lived a sinless life as a human, and finally died in our place as a human, but also as the Son of God, being the perfect sacrifice for our sins. Now, it's because of Jesus that we should celebrate Christmas in a wild, over-the-top manner. We should be celebrating even more abundantly than those people in Kansas City celebrated after the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. I mean, the world should know that we're celebrating, and why we're celebrating, because Jesus has won our hearts, right? But here's where it gets tricky. We really don't know how to celebrate properly. Now, think about the main things we do at Christmas to celebrate. Some people drink too much. Most Christians don't do that, hopefully, thankfully, I hope not. Instead, though, we have our own drug of choice. We eat and eat and eat some more. And when we're done, we're not really done, because we're going to go back and eat some more just because it's there. And it's not salad we're eating. No. Texas sheet cake, grandma's oatmeal cake, pecan pie, chocolate pie, sugar cookies, fudge, candy canes, as much homemade bread and Christmas potatoes as we can possibly get down to, in addition to all of the desserts. During the holidays of any type, we tend to eat to excess. Now, when I say we, I'm really talking about the people, the American lifestyle, right? And that American lifestyle has overflown into it overflows into other countries, unfortunately. But is that really, eating to excess, is that really how we become merry? Is this really the only way we know how to celebrate? And I can tell you that when I was wallowing in super morbid obesity, that eating my favorite foods was the only way I celebrated. It was my recreation. I mean, going out to eat was a time of celebration and recreation, but the holidays was an over-the-top kind of celebration of eating whatever I wanted. And I didn't see these foods as tempting. I just looked forward to indulging to my heart's content, right? My only goal in life was to be able to eat as much as I wanted of my favorite foods. And it was the only time I thought that I was happy. Yeah. However, all it was doing was making me more unhappy. Now, if I could have eaten all my favorite foods and not gained a pound, yeah, then maybe that would have made me joyous and merry. But let's think about that a minute as well. When I weighed 430 pounds, I was always secretly mad at God when I would see thin people eating desserts. Why? Well, because they can eat them and be thin. So it would make me think I should be able to eat as much dessert as I want and it not affect me. Duh. It doesn't work that way. And I knew it didn't, but I still prayed that God would let me eat those things and still keep the weight off. Newsflash, it never happened. And that never happened. Instead, I spent most of my adult life until I was 50 eating whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, and however much I wanted. And of course, gaining a boatload of weight and then going on these crazy, drastic starvation diets to lose it. Only to put the weight back on when I'd reward myself for losing weight by eating a piece of grandma's oatmeal cake, one of my favorites. And it was this endless cycle of yo-yo dieting. It wasn't good for me physically, emotionally, or spiritually. I looked forward to tempting desserts. I wanted to fall into temptation. The more tempting, the more I craved them. So when I'd see that someone brought a cherry cheesecake, I'd eat some real food ahead of time and then really chow down on that dessert. The word tempting was really just an adjective to describe my favorite desserts. In other words, I looked forward to Christmas for the food, and that was it. Even the presents weren't a high priority on my list. I thought it made me merry to give into all of these temptations that would be there, all the tempting foods. In actuality, it just made me miserable. And I know even when thin people eat too many desserts, it's going to make them miserable too. So what does the word miserable mean? It means wretchedly unhappy or uncomfortable. Wow, that's the opposite of what we're supposed to be doing at Christmas, but it actually defines how I would feel even during the eating process, the grazing process, the chowing down process. It was really making me uncomfortable because I knew that I was not doing what God wanted me to do. And I could feel those extra pounds that I had added to my body. I could feel it when you're eating a tremendous amount of food, you know, your belly stretches out, you know, it's like that kind of becomes a sign of, well, I'm getting all the food I want, is when you feel uncomfortably full. But it was an uncomfortable feeling. I just couldn't define it as that. And when I was over 400 pounds, I was really already uncomfortable. And I was just adding to it by overeating. So I would think, I'm an intelligent woman. Why in the world do I allow myself to party hardy by eating the foods that only go straight to my hips? It made no sense to me, and yet I knew I had no desire to stop either. This made me wretchedly unhappy. So, got to define the word wretched. That means to express anger or annoyance. And that's what I did. I was angry and annoyed that I had gone through yet another holiday focusing only on the food. I was mad at myself when I'd try on a pair of pants and I either couldn't get them on or they would be like stretched to the max once again. I was upset that I was needing to buy larger sizes of clothes. I wanted to be able to eat what I wanted and lose weight at the same time, but that just isn't possible for me. And I wanted to eat all those tempting foods because it looked like what everyone else was doing. But why was I the only one that was super morbidly obese? Because I was the only one giving into the foods I loved when no one else was looking. So what a thin person like my husband might eat during, at a meal, he might have a full plate of food. He ate very few desserts and always hasn't been a dessert person. But, that's what I would see what he ate. And I thought, well, if I just eat what he eats, I'll be okay. But I could eat what he ate, and then I could eat even more desserts. And I would do it when no one was looking. I would do it after the fact. The tempter didn't have to work hard to tempt me. It was a celebration temptation, but he looked forward to it because I looked forward to it, and he knew that I would be giving into the temptation. So all he had to do was just let me see or smell or even think about what was going to be there for me to eat, and I would be all down for it, even if he was showing this to me at a time when I wasn't going somewhere, it would be, I would run to get the ingredients and go fix it, or go through fast food and get something to tide me over, or stop at the store and get all the ingredients and then go and make it and eat it. And of course, I'd save some for my family, you know. I'm not, I wouldn't totally keep it all for myself. I mean, that wouldn't be a very good thing for a mom to do, right? But especially when we took care of mentally and behaviorally challenged foster teens and young adults, I would cook a lot of those kind of things, the desserts, because I knew they loved eating as much as I did. So I'd have enough for everyone, but then I'd reason with myself that I needed to eat all that was left because they, meaning the other people around me, didn't need it, and I didn't want it to tempt them. And of course, I was really the one who was high on the scale of not needing it and not needing to be tempted. So it reminds me of Sir Walter Scott's line in the poem he wrote in 1808, "Oh, the tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive." What he was really saying in that poem was that when we lie, even to ourselves, it complicates our life in unimaginable ways. We have to continue doing those things we wouldn't normally do if we allowed God to lead us, things that we know we shouldn't be doing. But we are so far into this, into our lies and our deceptions that we are practicing even on ourselves, that we can't seem to back out of them. And then we need more lies to cover the lies that we've been living. Now, this happens with any kind of deception trail we start down. I didn't want anyone to know I was eating all the desserts, so I'd do it in secret. And when someone would ask, "Where are the brownies?" I'd say, "Oh, the girls must have eaten them." Or another out-and-out lie, which was, "I have no idea where things disappeared to around here." And I'd lie to myself when I'd stop for fast food. You know, usually when I did that, all I wanted was a quick fix, something to get me through the day. I'd tell myself I needed it. And on one level, I did know what I was doing. I was lying to myself and to God. I was saying, I'll eat healthy tomorrow. I'll start that diet tomorrow. But today, I need to overcome the stress I feel. And the only way I know to do that is to eat and to do it right now. Tomorrow, I might start out the day trying in my own strength to eat healthy, but I would fall into one of the evil one's temptations. And remember, he didn't have to work hard on me, so I gave in way too easily, and then the cycle of lies and guilt and shame and self-condemnation would start all over again. If I listened carefully, I think I could hear the evil one laughing his head off, and high-fiving his various underlying demons, these underling demons who were assigned to me, because I'm sure the devil assigned his newbies to me because I was easy. They learned on me. And that is how I was until God finally revealed the truth to me. And even though he had told me the truth all along, it was in this time of when I was ready to hear what he had to show me that I finally began to get it. I am the only one who can change what I put into my mouth. I am the only one who can stop giving in to temptation and reverse the treacherous path that I was on. But I knew I couldn't do it alone. On my own, in my human strength, I am weak. But hey, that's really good news. It really is. because it is only when I am weak in human strength that I am strong, truly able, truly powerful, truly drawing from God's strength. And that's what 2 Corinthians 12:10 in the Amplified tells us. And it's a powerful truth, and it really propelled me forward on my weight loss journey. I didn't realize that I had the power to overcome my food temptations from the moment that I accepted Jesus when I was 7 years old. I just didn't know the power was there right at my fingertips. The power of the Holy Spirit was with me from that moment on. I just chose instead to comfort myself with food, which seemed a whole lot more tangible than this nebulous thing called the Holy Spirit. But friends, I've learned. Food only comforts us for a moment by anesthetizing our feelings and our desires. But when the high wears off, it makes us want more the next time to get that same feeling. This is what happens when we are prone to eating desserts and high carbohydrate foods and tell ourselves that just this one time we can eat this piece of cake and stop. But here's the deal. I know if you have over 100 pounds to lose, probably even if you have over 50 pounds to lose, you can't do that. One piece or one bite is going to lead to another. Worry, concern, anger, overwhelm, frustration, loneliness, guilt, shame, regret, it's all going to set in, and you won't want to deal with them. Those things come. They're going to come as a natural result of us living our lives. What we have to do is release those things to God. But what we usually do is, instead of dealing with them, we just eat something and keep eating to make sure those feelings will go away. Now, this is the exact way I gained up to 430 pounds. And like I always tell you, don't do what I did, okay? And if you find yourself doing that, you need to find a way to stop, okay? And I'll tell you, you can come into my coaching group. I'll help you there. You can do one-on-one coaching with me. I'll help you there. Listen to these podcasts, follow my blogs, all of those kind of things, and I will help you. And suddenly, this truth is going to set into you. See, I knew that eating the way I was eating was not what my body needed. But it was what I felt like would calm my feelings down for a while. And that's what I wanted. I would do almost anything to make sure that I could calm those feelings down and not act like a crazy person. So, I didn't indulge in things like alcohol or drugs. I didn't have to. Sugar and simple carbohydrates were my drugs of choice. So, how did I change? Because I was a sugar and a comfort food addict. The change process is a long story in itself, and it is the real reason I began coaching in the first place. But the simple answer is that I knew God wanted me to be healthy so I could be of use in His kingdom. Our bodies is where His Holy Spirit lives. If we are His hands and feet in the world, and if our bodies aren't healthy, He has no means of operation, right? I had been living my life for what I wanted, and that was I was the number one important thing in my life, making sure I was satisfied. But I had to start over and begin to see that I needed to live my life for what God wanted for my life. That meant when He told me to stop eating sugar and bread, I had to find a way to understand how to do that. And I did that by finding a coach and a group that really helped me. And in that process, God helped me lose 250 pounds and keep it off. So last week I mentioned James 1:14 through 15, which tells us our own desires and thoughts are the source of our temptation. And in verse 16, in the Passion Translation, it says, "So my friends, don't be fooled by your own desires." That's really what temptation is, just being fooled by what we think we want. That's the root of what's going on with us. That's the source. Deal with the root and the desire will change. And then in verses 17 through 18, it really gives us a different perspective to try to embrace. It's one that's worth talking about, especially during a season when gift giving is paramount, right? And so in the Passion Translation, it says, "Every gift God freely gives us is good and perfect, streaming down from the Father of lights, who shines from the heavens with no hidden shadow or darkness and is never subject to change. He was delighted to give us birth by the truth of his infallible word, so that we would fulfill his chosen destiny for us." Why did he give us gifts? Why is he on our side? Because he has a chosen destiny for us. And that's not eating all the food we can eat or gaining up to 430 pounds like I did. It's eating the foods that will fuel our bodies to become healthy. And I love the fact that as the Father of lights, there is no darkness or hidden things in his motives or in the gifts that he gives us. We don't have to say, okay, why is he giving this to me? You know, I'm a little suspicious of this free gift I got in the mail. I don't know about that. So that's not a gift from God. It might be a gift from a scammer, but it's not a gift from God. So we focus on the gifts that he gives us. And those are very different from, that new shirt that someone gave you for Christmas. Because every single gift God gives us is so that we can fulfill the chosen destiny he has for us. Not the destiny we choose for ourselves, but the one he has chosen for us and implanted in us. So this is very much like the imaginal cells that God plants in the caterpillar, so that when they go into the chrysalis, a beautiful butterfly emerges. So how does that happen? It happens because God implanted the design in them already. He planned it. He planned for their destiny. He's planned for ours too. Discovering our destiny, though, takes surrendering completely to him, just like the caterpillar does when it enters the chrysalis. It may take allowing God to totally rearrange every desire in our lives to match the desires that he has for us. And he will only do that when we are willing to listen to him and follow what he says. So that's my question. Are you willing? Are you willing to listen? Are you willing to follow? And are you ready to totally surrender to him? If you don't know if you are ready yet, or even how to surrender, the best place I can help you is Overcomers Academy, which is my Christian weight loss coaching group. The doors are closed right now, but you can sign up on the wait list and when you sign up on that wait list, you're going to be sent some emails with some free gifts, and then you will be notified when the doors open again. Now, also my next book, Sweet Surrender, Breaking Strongholds, will be releasing in January, so stay connected to the podcast and my blog and all of my social media areas to get the information about that. So, and speaking of social media, I don't talk about that very much, but I do hope that you will follow me on Facebook at Teresa Shields Parker, at Instagram and Pinterest at Tree Parker, and on YouTube, I'm Teresa Shields Parker 1. On YouTube, you will find the videos of this podcast, and the links for all of those, plus Overcomers Academy and the CPN, the Charisma Podcast Network, will be down in the show notes. So until next week, sweet grace for your journey.